Excuse me, let me
Oh,
start
I'm
this
sorry.
over, okay? We'll finish the discussion with the employees before we go for any public comment on this. Any further questions of the staff from the board?
I've got just a couple questions on the finances part. And costs of doing business and such. And we have, they both involve maintenance, one facilities maintenance and one for vehicle maintenance. And as I look through the master voucher and the different costs, I'm seeing costs to Les Schwab, to A1 radiator repair, to Blade Chevrolet for maintenance and service, not for parts. So I was wondering what we're getting done there that we're not doing in-house. If you can answer
You
that.
want to answer that, Kevin? You probably know.
Yes, the A-plus service radiator, those are windshields.
Okay.
Some of the windshields we do ourselves here, some of them we don't have the capability of doing, which we bring to them. Blade Chevrolet, there are certain programs that need to be updated with a system that we do not have, and we have to farm that duty out to Blade as well. And Les Schwab, we buy tires through them, but the service that we have through them is alignments for the vans.
Okay, I thought we had an alignment machine here.
No, we do not.
Okay. Okay, that answers that one. And then on facilities maintenance, I noticed stuff, deals for plumbing and repair and for heating and air conditioning, et cetera. And I'm just wondering what those are for. We got light plumbing and heating, maintenance and repair service, $2,000.
Yes, that was a valve that we're not qualified to work on. It's a substantial valve. We don't have the training to rebuild those. We job shadow any job that is farmed out to try to learn more from it so that we can do that in-house the next time.
Yeah. Well, okay. I guess my question would be, is if we don't have if it's this is a new building. Is any of this stuff warranted?
Can you say that again?
This is a new building, new facility. Are we not under warranty on?
Most of the warranties have run out now. But we do check every issue that we have, we do check and see if it is warrantyable.
Okay. All right. I'm good, thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
Paul, when you were saying we had fuel savings costs, and some was from the price of fuel, and then some was from reduced service level, do you know what the ongoing reduced service level savings would be versus the gas price fluctuation?
Yeah, I don't have that right here, but I have looked at that, and we can talk about that in the finance committee
Okay.
if you'd like. Sure.
Yeah, I have some other questions like that when we get to the 411 discussion.
Any further comments before I ask the public? Now entertain a comment from the public.
Commissioner Johnson asked the question that I was going to ask.
Thank you very much. This is why we like to come up here first before running.
Good
out
good
there,
form.
okay?
Yep.
Good. Any other comments before we close the public comment on this topic? Hearing none, we'll close that, and we will thank you very much for that report.
You're welcome.
Operations report. Next item.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few updates I would like to bring to the attention of the board. first of all, and I don't know, Sean, if you have anything to report or would like to report, but I have a few updates. As you recall, we've gone out for RFPs on transit advertising, bus advertising. The deadline for those submittals is June 15th, so that's why you haven't heard too much yet about that activity. Responses are due June 15th. 6 firms currently have copies of the RFP. I know of only one so far that seems to be serious about submitting a bid. I don't know if the other 5 are interested or not, but I do know of one that seems to be very interested, and they happen to be a large regional transit advertising firm that has experience in the Puget Sound region. So hopefully we fit in nicely into their Puget Sound operations. So that'll be coming up in the middle of June. As you have previously approved, we are in the process of decommissioning a number of vehicles in the fleet. 31, I believe, Ken?
33 total.
33 total. To date, we've decommissioned 20 of those. And by that, we mean taken off logos, we've taken out the electronic signs, we've taken out communications equipment, GPS, so on. We've taken out the extra add-ons that were put in the standard bus when they were purchased. And those will be inventory for future use in the existing fleet. We don't want to give those up in surplus in the vehicles. So it takes about a day per vehicle to totally go through them and do everything that needs to be done. So we've got 20 of the 33 finished. Our goal was to have them all finished by June 1. We're a little bit off of that schedule right now, but we're going to be real close. And then during the month of June, we will be working with the state on the state's auction program. And hopefully during the course of the summer, we can get some activity on that. So that's the surplus vehicles. And then I'd like to report on union negotiations. Very general information. Currently, we, the management and the union, have tentatively agreed to 24 of 49 items on our joint master list of issues. Now, please keep in mind, we're starting from the easiest and going towards the most difficult. So we've been dealing with the easiest half of the list, and we've had good interaction with the union, their representatives at the bargaining table, and it's going well. So far, we haven't really hit money issues. Certain issues like uniforms, things like that currently are budgeted and are not a significant budget item. Those sorts of things we're dealing with, but no, down the road we'll be getting into the more costly items. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Any other items under these reports that anybody cares to add to this? Mr. Norton?
Ken, I had a question regarding the transit advertising. Specifically, what advertising, is it included in the RFP? What type will or will not be allowed?
Yes, certainly does.
Okay. Could you give me some of the, what's not going to be allowed?
Just off the top, and maybe you can help me, Matt, but off the top, we've got like 2 pages of,
Sex and drugs and rock and roll.
2 pages of excluded items, but certain things as, and they get, and the language gets pretty graphic in terms of types of ads, but basically, no alcohol, no tobacco, certain types of advertising related to, you know, questionable clothing and those sorts of things. But it is very detailed, and,
We can email a copy.
but,
We can just email a copy of the RFP if you like.
or that section of the RFP we could provide to all the board. I think all the board has had a copy of the RFP. Yeah.
All right, I don't press you anymore. Yeah, I'd like to see that there's some areas of concern, naturally, I'm sure now that you've explained, you're aware of those. But the other question is, would it include bus wraps?
Yes,
It would?
yes.
Okay, and who would that be done outside, or would be training our own people to do that work?
No, currently it's specified in the RFP that the vendor would do the wraps. And it specifies what areas of the bus will not be wrapped for safety purposes.
Exactly, okay. So you're on top of that?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I have a question about that too. Being that the buses are public property, are political advertisements allowed?
No.
Okay, so somebody running for a particular office
Right.
cannot buy space on it.
Yeah, that's actually one of the gray issues that we took some time to craft language, so eliminate as much of the gray as possible on that, so.
Okay, thank you.
That would apply, of course.
Any further,
And Mr. Chairman, I might add that, that management, meaning me, would be reviewing everything that goes on each bus. I mean, each piece of advertising, and that's specified in the RFP as well, that I have to review everything that goes on a bus or buses. If I were to spot anything that I had questions about, or maybe I wasn't sure about from a political standpoint or a community standpoint, I would certainly bring to the board for the board's input from that perspective.
okay, thank you.
And I do have one more quick question. Let's say we have vendor is ready to go tomorrow. On average, because we discussed this when we first made brought it up to go out for the RFP, but just to remind folks what we were thinking or shooting for on average potential revenue for other comparable.
Very,
transit
very
systems.
broad, general area. You know, I know that Wacom gets roughly 140 to 160,000 per year. Wacom is larger than us and covers more territory than us, and their market certainly is a pricier market than ours is going to be. It's going to be under $100,000 to be sure, annually.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say a potential, say 50,000?
I would hope.
All right, we're going to move along here. The chair's report. I wasn't here for the last meeting, so I really don't have anything regarding the business of the transit facility to report. I would like to make a comment that I had the pleasure of rafting and kayaking 226 miles over 16 days down through Colorado through the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon, in my observation, is America's cathedral without a roof. And it truly is. And Teddy Roosevelt had it right when he said, we can't improve on this, we can only mar it. So in your travels, in your interest in our national treasures, remember Teddy Roosevelt's comments 100 years ago. These are things that we need to protect, and it's pretty special. And I'd encourage you to take a trip sometime down there. Move along here to any board discussion right now before we move on. Hearing none, we're going to move on to our first agenda item, or business agenda items. Possible action to revise or cancel routes 411 West and 411C service, and that is the 411. For those who don't know what that is the Oak Harbor to Marsh Point and Cordes connection, and also the 411 service Camino to Skagit. And I don't have any information regarding any update on the amendment to the transportation bill that would bring perhaps some relief from Camino to the community transit connection. So, Mr. Grass, if you'd like to lead into that item, business item number 1.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in previous meetings, the board has been presented the current status of those routes as well as alternate scenarios involving and including reductions in those routes relative to the discontinuation of state funds on June 30th. And I'll in a minute ask Sean to go into a little more detail about those options and what they entail, what they involve. But I will say that, and I haven't heard anything further regarding that bill either, but I did have a discussion, meeting with Skagit Transit's executive director about 3 weeks ago. And we both have, interests in that bill, along with similar interests in connectivity between counties and the region as a whole. But we also agree that we have, different groups and different activities that each agency is trying to serve, and we're a little different in our approach and in our mission as far as transit goes in our counties. One issue I did get clarified from Skagit County is that they are not willing to come to the Island County line at Deception Pass to provide a connection on the 411 route between Island County and March's Point. As you recall, we've had discussions in the past where we thought that could be a pretty good means of reducing some of the costs of that service and giving Skagit the opportunity to come up that far beyond March's Point that they don't currently serve. Unfortunately, and it would save us some money to utilize that transfer opportunity. Unfortunately, Skagit County does not want, Skagit Transit does not want or will not travel to the county line to make that connection. So we are, right now we are at a dead end as far as being able to provide 411 service beyond the county line in a economical means. So I think that's one given right now that we're working with in the budget considerations for 411, that it will be terminated at the county line, but we would commit to providing service up Highway 20 from Harbor Station with Island Transit service up to the county line to ensure that the northern part of the county is served, which it is currently served by 411 only. So we would make that service available up to the county line. think that's an update on the 411, but Sean, do you have anything to add to that?
Just a reminder on the proposals that we were asked to come up with, and one of the proposals was the 5 runs from Whidbey, or 6 runs from Whidbey on the 411, and the 4 runs from Camano at that time. We were asked to come up with a kind of a better number, if you will, a more realistic number, and we came up with the 3 runs on both sides. And then we came up with the 6 runs from Oak Harbor to Deception Pass and no runs from Camano. And that was kind of like the last proposal that we put out there. I know there was some questions as far as the amount of service on Camano as opposed to Whidbey. Camano currently services right now 9 runs, and we have 13. And they're kind of, it's by ridership and it's by population when that was kind of decided. I know with the 411s from Whidbey, when we were going all the way to Scat, we had standing room only. We've never had that issue with Camano. We've always had the 9 runs. So it's our feeling if we added more runs to Camano's side of the house, we're going to start to see less people traveling on those buses. Where we had the overload is with the 412s. Standing room only, 8 runs, no questions. So that's kind of where we're at today.
Comment, Mr. President?
We are seeking a decision on the amount of service, level of service the board wishes to provide on both of those routes, given our particular financial situation, and given the amount of interest that there is to continue both of those routes. Staff does not believe we can continue at the current rate or even maybe half the rate of or the level of service that we're currently providing. My general position is that I'm concerned about the future financial levels of this organization. I believe our core business is within Island County, and I think we're still in a very precarious spot financially to be operating outside of the county. I think we need to take care of business within the county and make sure we're stable here before we're venturing too far out.
Thank you. Having no further comments from the staff and from Mr. Grasto, I will turn this over to public comment. At this time, you have 3 minutes. Please address your comments to the board. Yes. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a couple of slides.
Oh, good. That's what we were going to on that.
And before I begin, I just wanted to say that some of the slides the information is going to be reduced because there's a lot of information. So I have handouts if you'd like to see that a little clearer.
Yeah, this would help the public to follow along and understand what the net bottom line
I have
is
15 copies here.
for us making a decision.
Thank you.
I don't think so, no.
Mr. Norton needs a copy of that too, please.
Sorry.
Thanks.
And by the way, they will temporarily pause the public comments. We'll let Paul do his presentation, and then we'll come back to the public for comments and questions.
Does that help us?
Works for me.
I tried to put this smaller sheet of paper on this slide, and it got distorted a little bit, so I'll probably be able to read it better on paper. But basically, I'd like to start by just talking about the options that we're presenting. You have 4 colors here. You have the light blue and the green and the yellow and the orange. The light blue is what we're currently doing today. It's 13 runs on Whidbey and 9 runs on Camino. And it shows the cost of each service, the annual cost, and then the monthly cost. And when we're talking about costs, we're just talking about direct costs, additional costs to provide that service above and beyond any indirect costs. And it's about $42,000 per month. And then the green is reduced service that we've budgeted for. So we've originally budgeted for about 70% service across the year, but we've been running at 100% service. So in order to meet our budget, we need to reduce that service down to around 40% for the remainder of the year, or starting in July. And if we do that, in order to meet that requirement, I think we'd have to do about 5 runs on Whidbey and 4 on Camino. And that would be about almost $18,000 per month. Proposal 1 that's been put on the table to run 3 runs on Whidbey and 3 on Camino, going from still the full service, but reduced service levels, would be about $12,000 a month. And then the final proposal, which is 6 runs only on Whidbey, only to Deception Pass, would be about $7,000 a month. So something that's not on the screen, but that's on the sheet of paper is, I asked the question, how much do we budget this year? And of course, when you go ahead and you budget something before the year happens, and then things seem to change a little bit. So some of the things that have changed on us is, well, first of all, I should say, you can see in the light blue, you have that full service, and then we're reducing in order to meet our budget requirements. But then a couple things have changed just recently. One is we've been told that some of the grants we have are going to be slightly reduced, about $14,000 per month. And then we're not receiving miscellaneous or RTAP revenue in the quantity that we thought, about another $2,500 a month. So if we just isolate 411 and these couple of these revenue shortfalls, we might ask the question, well, what can we really afford? And it might be $1,600 a month if nothing else is taken into consideration. I put a little note in the bottom there. It says, I'm assuming that our current fuel savings will pay for our SGR payback, at least in the first 4 months. What future fuel savings, I'm not sure what that's going to look like. But I don't really want to count on it, at least in that little box. I'm just trying to isolate what I would call the obvious knowns. And then in the last box, I thought it was a good way to look at it is if we just look at what's changed here and the impact of the organization just based on the changes. In the first situation, the light blue, we were receiving $67,000 approximately per month, and we were paying out $42,000. So that was a net positive to the organization. Whereas in the last 6 months, we're not going to receive that revenue anymore, but we might be paying out at reduced level, the $18,000 per month. The net to the organization is from the first 6 months to the second 6 months is really a negative impact to the organization. So what it's going to force us to do is reallocate our resources to support whatever service level that we're going to provide. And the same is true in the yellow and orange cases. Whatever service level we take, it still has a negative impact to the organization financially. So it would require a reallocation of resources. second slide that I have is the second sheet of paper. And I was requested by the Finance Committee to look at cash flow under these different proposals, under these different situations over through the end of 2016. And what's interesting about the slide is that it shows major purchases and how it impacts the organization, in addition to how the cash position will change depending on what choices we make. And so again, we have the blue and the green, the yellow, and the orange. And you can see right now how we're building up cash reserves. And we had some proposed expenditures along the way. One's the radio and receivers. And then in October, we got a WISTIP payment. December, I put in possible route match purchase. That's another grant that's out there that's a possibility of fulfilling. Then in January, we comes to our second WISTIP payment. And we have a pending bus purchase that was supposed to take place in 2015, but it's been delayed because of the state contract. But we do need to purchase that in close proximity to 15. We've been given some allowance to purchase it slightly after that, but if we don't purchase that, then we lose that opportunity. So that's another capital purchase that we have on the table. And then again, another bus purchase in June. So we can see, when we hit those major purchases, how our cash balance drops. One of the major constraints for me when I was working on the budget was I feel it's necessary to keep around at least a month's worth of operating expenses so that we can meet our obligations. And so that you might say that's kind of a bottleneck, a low point. And if you see this graph, originally, of course, the budget was more difficult to meet that constraint because of we didn't have the luxury of our fuel surplus and some other cost savings. But as time has progressed, you can see under the green, yellow, and orange scenarios, we are kind of getting close to that minimum cash constraint. And that would happen in January of 16. And again in June of 16. But outside of those purchases, then we have, again, a steady increase in our cash reserves. So just to summarize this 411 story, created a final slide here called key considerations. So we have those three options on the table. Is one, follow the budgeted plan, which is about 40% service. We could reduce the service levels to proposal 1 or proposal 2, which is about 27 or 17% of the service. Some of the things, considerations, once again, is state funding for 411 is going away starting July 1st. It's $67,000 per month. Other budgeted state operating money is going to be reduced by almost $14,000 a month. Our fuel savings can pay